So it's good for our YouTube thing. Okay, guys, so this brings us to phobias. And I talk about phobias a little bit. Yes, there are so many fears. There's a book of fears. You even got a fear of turning left. You've got a fear of the stick inside an ice cream.
Really?
Right? There are fears, and the list is constantly growing. There are so many fears. And, you know, and it's important to treat people with these kind of fears with respect, because society often finds these things very funny. When somebody is so scared of a little dog this big, you know, a guy 6 feet tall freaks out about a little teacup monkey. Yeah. So, you know, if you want to laugh inside, and you know, let them know how you feel. So there are different ways of dealing with phobias. The two main approaches. One is called an incremental desensitization, and that's what we do symptomatically, and that's what we're going to teach you guys. Now the other way is through analytical and regression hypnotherapy. Now I'm sure you can use parts as well, but the primary ways we recommend is incremental desensitization and regression therapy. Guys, regression therapy is the best way to deal with it. In actual fact, regression therapy is almost the best way to deal with anything, because it's the most powerful approach, right? And yet, sometimes using regression therapy for certain things is like shooting a fly with a nuclear bomb. You know, it's overkill. It's not necessary. You don't have to go that far. You can literally just deal with it symptomatically and be done with it. The process I want to teach you guys now is what I always use for phobias. I do this first, and if this doesn't work, if it wears off, then we'll escalate to regression therapy. But I think it's important for you guys to know that even although I say that, and even although you don't have regression therapy in your toolbox yet, this will work 9 out of 10 times. Okay. So it will work.
I've got a thing of fear of heights. So when I go traveling, sometimes it's like
I have to hold on a little bit.
Even if I've got a stick, it's like
Absolutely.
too close to that edge.
So you're going to suggest something other than incremental desensitization or
Those are the
regression?
Those are the two things. You can probably do parts as well. I haven't done parts for that yet. So if any of you do parts therapy for a phobia, you can also maybe share with us how it works for you. Okay. Right, so I can explain to you what incremental desensitization is, how it works,
And exposure.
and so on.
Exposure to the
Yes.
item that feels like a spider or snake.
Exactly. And yet I think it's probably best for me to use an example. Because if I use an example of an actual session, then you probably get it a lot more easily. Okay, so what happened is, we can pour some water. So what happened is, thank you. I was still practicing Pretoria Moreta Park, and this lady brought her daughter, and she, at the time, she was, I think, was 16 years old, and she had a fear, she had a phobia of snakes, right? Now you might say, is there such a thing? You know, because some people feel being scared of snakes is okay.
It's justified.
Yeah. I can tell you in her case it was extreme. It was so bad that she was getting to a point where it was starting to isolate her. So she would be wearing these boots, and then she was scared to go outside. Eventually, there was grass, there might be a snake in the grass. She wanted to stay indoor. If she looked at the U magazine and there's a picture of a snake, she'd freak out. If a snake appears on TV, she'd freak out. Literally started having dreams about cartoon snakes, right? So she was having a huge response, reaction to anything snake related. And in her case, it was actually, I would say, justifiable. I think, you know, if you know the history. So what happened with her is well, let me just say this first. Let me just sip of water. What happened is that well, let me just say that for the most part, snakes are more scared of you than you know you of it. So most of the time, if there's a snake and you just kind of leave it alone or walk around or whatever, it'll go away. You know, it's okay. Except for one kind of snake. There's a specific kind of snake that's got a bad attitude.
Black mamba.
That's right. That one, if you annoy it or if it for some reason doesn't like you, it will come after you. Right? That's the attitude it has. It'll chase you.
It's a serious behavior.
It's faster than you.
And it's fast.
It's 27 k's an hour.
It's very fast. And the problem is, they were staying in Nelspruit, and she was 12 years old. And what happened is, she went into a room, and there was a black mamba, and it bit her. And then she ran away to her parents' room, and it chased her to her parents' room, and it bit her twice more.
Oh.
Right? And I can't even remember how many times. She told me how many times they resuscitated her. And she actually, obviously, she survived. So in her case, I would say she had a valid reason for feeling this way about snakes. Right? So then what we did in the session, we did just like what you know, induced trance, so obviously a pre-talk with induced trance. And then the resource, I elicited a safe feeling. Right? For it was a pink happy feeling, pink safe feeling in the heart and the chest. Right? Like a mist, happy pink mist. And then what we did is I went straight, this is the first session, it's not split, it's just like I went straight into it. So even the resource was a bit faster than you would normally do. And the pre-talk doesn't take long on a phobia because you just need a little bit of information, you just need to know the exact, you don't need to go through so much. And then what we did is I told her to imagine that she's sitting in a movie theater, right? And she's watching the screen. This is in trance now, right? She's in nice deep trance. And so she's watching a movie screen, and right over there is a picture of a snake. And as I said, picture of a snake, she started freaking out. Like instantly she started, and it went up like that, she's like freaking out. And I just said, let the scene fade, let the scene fade. So I immediately said that. And she calmed down a little bit, right? And then I thought, okay, so now we're gonna desensitize. We're gonna dissociate a little bit further so she can desensitize. So then I said, okay, now you are up in the projection booth, right? And you're looking way down at the screen down there. And as you're looking down at the screen down there, there's a picture of a snake. And as I said that, she started freaking out. And it went up like this. And I immediately said, let the scene fade, let the scene fade. Now, what you need to keep in mind, if you let that person freak out beyond a certain point, they will pop out of trance, and they'll break rapport with you, and they will not allow you to put them in trance again. Okay, so you can't let it go too far. You have to kind of keep control of this thing, right? Yeah.
Something occurred to me. Just tell me if this would or wouldn't work. If you got her to imagine herself watching the snake, like a meta position, would
Yes.
that work to like? Would that work or backfire?
You see, that front version of her is still close to it.
Yeah, but if she's watching herself watching the snake, it's a way of detachment.
It is. It's used a lot in NLP.
Yeah, there's that.
Yeah, you can. It's up to you to see it. See how the client responds. If they're reacting strongly to that, then take them further away from it. Right, so then what happened is I said, okay, it was obviously a strong phobia. So I said, okay, so now what we're going to do is I want you to imagine that you are in a bubble of protection. And this is a teenager, right? So I could like really dramatize. I said, and the sides of it is as thick as a building, right? Logical person, you won't do that because it won't fit in a prediction booth, right? But for her, it was okay. And I said, and you are inside the see-through bubble of protection. And way down there, looking through it, you can see there at the bottom, there is a picture of a black and white snake. And she started freaking out. And I said, let the scene fade, let the scene fade. So then I said, okay, let's add more protection. Can you see how I'm dissociating further and further? Then I said, okay, so now you are inside this bubble of protection, and it's filled with this pink safety of yours, right? You're surrounded by it. And as you're looking way down there, right there, there is a tiny little black and white cartoon snake on the screen. And she started freaking out. Jesus. Right? So I said, let the scene fade, let the scene fade. So now you can see how severe this phobia actually is, right? So then I said, okay, so now this thing is this bubble of protection is no longer see-through, it's solid, and you're in all of this safety and protection, and there's a hole, there's a tiny little peeping hole where you can like just peep through, and way down there on the screen, there's Mickey Mouse. So I decided to change tactics here. There's Mickey Mouse. And Mickey Mouse is being chased by a piece of string. And everything is black and white. Right? And as the string is chasing Mickey Mouse, the tip of the string is starting to resemble the head of a snake. And as I say that, she starts freaking out. Right? And I say, let the scene fade. Now, if I press pause on this whole experience, I need to tell you guys a little sneaky little secret you need to know right now. Is that each time I say the word snake, I'm lighting up that neurology and I'm desensitizing it to it. So there's a lot happening in the background, right? Without her even knowing. Okay. So let's continue. Then I say, okay, well, what's going on? You're inside this bubble of protection, solid. The hole disappears, it's completely solid, you're surrounded by this pink safety, and there's a little camera sitting on the top of this bubble of protection. And here in front of you is a small little screen where you can see what the camera is seeing way down there. Right? You see how I'm now even dissociating even further from her, right? In this whole thing. And then I said, and there on the screen is Mickey Mouse being chased by a piece of string. And as you're looking at all everything black and white, the tip of the string is starting to resemble the head of a snake. And as I say that, she starts freaking out. And it's different though. I can see it's going up, but not as much. There seems to be less of it. And then it starts to settle. And then she comes down. No longer freaking out. And she can actually, sitting inside of a bubble protection, watching the screen, watching what's way down there on that big screen, she can be okay with a small little piece of string that has a head resembling a cartoon snake chasing Mickey Mouse, everything in black and white. Right, she's okay with that, at least. So then I said, and now as you're sitting there, everything is starting to become in color. It's a colorful Mickey Mouse being chased by a tiny little colorful cartoon snake. And as I say that, she's freaking out. Right? Again, it goes up like that, and it doesn't go too high, and then it settles again. Right? And that's normally, you'll see when it turns like that. There's a turning point where they start being okay with what's happening. Right? And then I said, okay, so way down there, Mickey Mouse, cartoon snake's gone, and now what you have down there is a picture of a black and white real snake. And she freaks out. Alright? And I'm watching it. And it goes up and I go there and I say, it's close, but then luckily it settles. Right? She doesn't go complete freak out. And then I say, okay. And I repeat all of this. You're inside all of this safety, bubble of protection, that's it, watching the little screen, watching the camera, watching way down there. I keep reaffirming all the safety and security that she's actually having as she's watching this. With each time I say it, I say all of that. You need to remember that because it makes it feel safe. Okay. And then I said, now as you're watching the screen way down there, you have a picture of a color full snake, like a real snake, and she freaks out again. Right. Same thing, goes up like that, she doesn't freak out completely, and she settles. If it looks like she'll freak out, let the scene fade, and then take a step back. Make the snake smaller, for instance. Does that make sense? So she can be more comfortable with it. So you can always backtrack. I'm going to give you another example just now, so you can backtrack a little bit. And then we did that, and then there was a video of an actual snake. Again, she freaked out, but then she settled. And then I had them bring an actual snake in a glass box onto the little stage in front of the screen in her mind that she was watching. She freaked out again, and then she settled, right? And then what we did is I had the snake, I didn't take that one away, and I had the snake that bit her be brought in a glass box. Right? And she went up again, didn't freak out completely, and it settled again. Right? And then what I did is I then slowly started taking the protection away. So now as you're watching this, the camera disappears, the screen disappears, you're looking through the peeping hole at the actual snake. She freaks out and she settles again. Right? And then what I did is I made it no longer solid, I made it completely see-through. Still being surrounded with a pink bubble, pink safety, looking at the snake around there. Freaking out, then settling. Then eventually what I had to do is I had the ball float down closer, and then when she would freak out I would stop. Then I would float closer, I'd stop. Float a bit closer and I'd stop. Each time. Just so as she freaks out she settles. As she freaks out she settles. Guys, this is desensitizing. I'm desensitizing her. The freakouts are good because each time she freaks out she's getting more used to it. Does this make sense? There's a lot happening here until the ball or bubble stopped by the actual snake in the glass box, and I had little steps appear, slow process again, stopping, going down until she was standing right next to the snake in the box without freaking out. And then I said, this poor snake, there's no food or water in this box and it's sealed inside, and I don't know what's going to happen to it. And she goes, I don't care if it dies. Bugger this snake, right? And that was pretty much it. That's what we had time for that session. And then I just tested it, like a little progression in the session. I had her imagine watching television, and there's a picture of a snake or snakes, View magazine, and there's a thing of a snake, and she was okay with all of that. And that was one session, did all of that, right? And it was done. She left. My mother, they left. And then the mother contacted me not long after that, like a month or so, and she said she's fine. She's completely fine. She's going out, she's no longer freaking out about snakes. She even went with the school to the zoo, and she went into the thing where they keep the snakes, and she was fine. So it literally took one session to go for years and years of that intense phobia. We were rid of it completely.
So you don't even need to bring the real thing in, use imagery for everything.
We don't use the real thing. The real thing is very dangerous. They do that in, I think it's behavioral psychology, where they do that. But they bring the actual stimulus closer, closer, closer. Yeah. And the problem with that is, now I know they do it very slowly and they log everything, but the problem with that is, if that person freaks out, and they're not able to take that stimulus away fast enough, they will re-traumatize, and that person, phobia will become stronger. Okay? So this is why we use this, because with the mind, it's like that. Within an instant, you can take it away. So with hypnosis, it's very, very effective.
So Arno, I've got a lady who she's got a phobia of people touching her. Now she has children, but even her kids know they're not allowed to just come up and give her a hug or touch her. She must touch them first. Same with her husband. So I haven't done anything with her yet because I said I had to first check. So how would you then, would that need to be a regression treatment then? Because she said her whole life she's been like that, even as a child. She didn't like her mother to hug her. So it's obviously a regression, so I should leave her until regression and then...
You can do desensitization, see how it will work, but my feeling, I can't tell you why I'm saying this, but my feeling is that there's something else going on there.
Of course.
It feels like trauma, it feels like you need regression therapy, and you might even need past life. Because if she's had it since childhood, yeah, I don't know if you, what
This
that
is
sounds like.
before the 4 or 5-year-old.
Yeah, there's more going on there.
So I should leave that for past life.
I would do parts. I would do a resource, build it up, do parts, find out about the part, speak to the part that doesn't want it to be touched, see if you can do a parts mediation and find out, see if that will help. So that's what I would definitely do at first before I do anything else. And then once you have regression training, do regression.
So it might not be a fear, it might just be an intense dislike.
Yeah, like something triggering.
Yeah.
The trigger could be stronger than just a snake.
Yeah, something else going on.
Like looking like it's
Yes.
a
Yeah, there's more there.
So but if you had to try and do the phobia thing, would it be effective, or would you not even try it? Rather just,
You can try it.
it wouldn't do any harm if you had to try it.
I don't think so. Because it's in their mind, you can see if it's not working, you just stop, do something else.
But
Right?
the best thing would be to wait and do resource and try parts.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I know mine from doing bits and bobs. My fear of heights is also a past life thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I would have to obviously then do a regression to go back into that space, right?
Find it. And then maybe this is now a good time to give you guys another example. Did you enjoy that example?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so why does it work? There's some research where they show that the subconscious mind cannot distinguish between what is real and vividly imagined. So that distinction between reality and fantasy is made by the conscious mind. And in hypnosis, the conscious mind is a little bit out of the way. And that's why it actually works. Does it make sense to you? Right, so here's another example. I'm going to use heights, just because Edith is telling me about. And this one is, I want to use this one because this is one where there was a little bit of a twist to it. Something happened later on, which was actually interesting. So this guy, and let's call him, what can we call him? Let's call him John. Right? So this guy, his name is John. He contacts me. He's actually a state agent in our area, not our area, but close by. And so I know him. And he's in his 50s, late 50s, and he loves hiking trails. You know, like this Fish River Canyon, and those are take days where you put a bag in your back and you just like walk and see and do everything in the bush or whatever. And then what happened to him is they just went to a trail in the Johannesburg, and then it was a 3-day one, and then on the 3rd day, when they were coming down the mountain, and John is a big guy. I want to tell you guys, he's tall. He's a tall guy. And when they were coming down with a little group of people, he froze up because of his fear of heights. And these poor people that had been carrying their bags and everything for 3 days had to carry him down the mountain.
I can believe that.
He froze up so completely he couldn't get down. And this was so embarrassing for him and everything that he decided to just make a plan with his fear of heights. Right. So then what we did, he came in, same thing, one session, first session, did the resource. And also important, I found out in the pre-talk, when was the last time experienced or previous time experienced this very strongly, and explained that they went to a holiday at Belito and they were on the 11th story or floor of the building. It was the only place spot that was available, and it was so bad for him that whole holiday he lived against the inner wall. He would like operate like this around the little flatlet, and it was so bad that if any of the kids went, the youngsters went close to the windows, he would shout at them. He would shout and scream at them because he was scared they'd fall or something. So we used that. So I told him to go back there in trance, And then I said, you are there, you're standing against the inner wall. And instantly you can see him starting, he's breathing, you can see his heart rate's going up, he's freaking out. So I say, now you're sitting against the inner wall. He's still, I say, now you're lying flat on your tummy against the inner wall. And now he's like, relaxing. He's not relaxing, but he's feeling a little bit more secure. And then I thought, okay, so yes, this is a real one. So then I said, you know those ropes that they tie the ships with? Those like really thick ropes. You got one of those ropes tied around your middle, your waist, and it's tied to the central support beam of this building, which means it's completely secure. And as you're lying on your tummy over there, you're slowly inching forward, leopard crawling, like flattening your tummy like 1 centimeter at a time towards the window, like this. And guys, this took a long time. You go.
Okay, how am I going to do this?
I'm watching this guy, and he's starting to freak out, and I say, stop, wait, and then he relaxes. And say, okay, here we go again, 1 centimeter at a time, slowly moving towards the window. Remember, you're fastened, you secure this rope on his tummy. We go towards the window, and he's freaking out. I say, stop, wait. And this we went and went and went and went. And it took, I can't even remember, like 10 minutes or something to move from the wall to the window, right, with all the stops. Until he was eventually completely fastened and secured to this rope, just peeping over, just over outside the window, like this, right? Okay, we're making progress. And so, okay, move back, move back, move back. Now you're sitting on your backside, and then we started inching forward on his backside, like 1 centimeter at a time, towards the window. Each time we'd freak out, we'd stop, we'd wait for it, and we go again. And we went and we went and we went until he was sat by the window. And then back again, and then standing, right? And then slowly, slowly, like a little bit at a time. There was a bit of a freak out there each time. Like, let it settle, wait for it, and we go again. Until he was standing right by the window with this rope around his waist. And then back, slowly back, watching everything, slowly back, backwards. And then got to the inner wall again, then removed the rope, and then we started on our tummies again. It was tummy again, backside again, standing up. And then you could actually get to the side without the rope and look out the window and be okay, be by the window.
Did you throughout assure him that this is safe, don't worry, it's safe, nothing can happen?
I said, I didn't say any of those words because that don't worry would kind of trigger worry. I talked about being safe and secure and fastened with that strong rope to the central support beam of this building.
Continuously?
Continuously. Every time we would freak out, so wait for it, no, keeping in mind that you are fastened with this rope. Right? So I kept repeating that. You have to repeat with these things, you have to repeat the safety constantly. Because it's a child inside and it forgets like this that they are safe and it freaks out.
How did you assure him once the rope was removed?
So by then he was desensitized enough to be okay. Remember we started in our tummy again. So yeah, it was slow. It was slow. It just took the whole session. This little thing, like this sounds weird, but between the wall and the window, this is not a big flatlet that's like, I can imagine it's from here to there by the thing. That took long each time. This took a whole session.
So how did you know how far he was or how close he was to the window? When did you decide, okay?
He tells me.
Oh, okay.
He tells me. But I can see he's freaking out.
Yes.
So the moment he freaks out, I say stop
Yes.
and wait.
Okay.
Right.
And then he would have told you, okay, I'm
Now
now at
watch
the
him.
window.
And I see him calm down.
Okay.
So for you guys as new at this, you maybe want to introduce a scale
Okay.
from 0 to 10,
Okay.
where 10 is as intense as it can be. And let them rate it. You just say where on the scale. Eventually you just say scale and they say the number.
Okay, because if he's closer to 10, that means he's closer to the
Freaking
window.
out. Well, not necessarily.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's not really that important how close he is to the window as you do the thing.
Oh, okay.
You know, just
That's
as long as he ends up there.
Okay. Because I thought the whole point was for him to look out the window because
It
that's
is.
what's creating the anxiety.
It is.
So in my mind, that is the final destination.
You ask him, he tells you.
Okay. Okay.
You know, if you're not sure, you say, where are you? Or how far are you from the window?
Okay.
But I didn't even ask those. It just went and went and went.
And so I don't know, my eyes are closed.
You found out the story in the chunking up of that he could put, or you regressed into this part in his life where this issue arose.
I found that in the pre-talk,
In the
that
pre-talk.
the Lito thing, and then I just say go there. I didn't even need to do like a big regression or anything. I just say go there, be there.
Because you said that was the last time he experienced that.
Very strongly.
Strong,
So it wasn't
okay.
the last time he had
Yeah,
a
but-
height. It was actually a few years before he came to me.
Okay,
But that
okay.
was like so strong, and
That
he was
is-
still feeling embarrassed about it.
Okay,
So that was a big one.
okay.
I could have used a mountain, but I kind of decided to use that one because it felt easier to desensitize than the mountain. Mountain is not so. Yeah, it's not so many variables. There's a question here somewhere? No? Okay.
I have another one, sorry.
Yeah.
So when you know that they come and check for a fear or a phobia, and you covered everything in the pre-talk, and they, like this guy, he could identify and little where it started from.
It's not where it started.
Well,
so for her we could,
That was the memory.
but for him we couldn't.
Yeah, okay, but he knew that he could remember that being scared in that flat. So if you've identified where you could use it as a starting point, do you still take them through the first, second, and third regressions to find their happy place where they want to be? Or
You can, absolutely, because when safety is an issue, it almost always goes to feeling safe and secure automatically. For some reason, because that's what they need, so the subconscious goes there. Yeah. Okay. So then that was it, time was up, we were done, I was feeling good about it, he left. Contacted me a while after that, I can't even remember, a month ago or so again. And then he said, it works so well that there's one place on the last hiking trail they just did where you go up the mountain and then there's a cliff, like very high. And then the path goes up like that, and then there where the cliff, the two mountains, like the mountain meets like that, there's a pole. And then you would lean over and grab that pole and jump over the cliff to the ravine to the other side,
Yeah.
and then continue that way.
Oh no.
Right?
That's when I say it's fine, I'm turning back.
I wouldn't even get there.
And he went up there and he did it like it was nothing, and
Yeah.
some of the people in his group
We're like, what
It's
the
like,
hell?
was
wow,
freaking out to actually be able to do it.
Is this the same guy we knew from before?
Right? That's how well it works. It
Wow.
was resolved completely. No issues. It was
Wow, cool.
just amazing.
I just want to ask from a process point of view.
Yeah.
You said in the pre-talk you established the fear, and you said you went straight there. Does that mean that you didn't do an induction? And also, is it if
No, I did an induction, I did a resource, all the normal stuff, you know.
Okay, so you went through doing the induction and the resource.
Yes. Yeah, so this is the body of the session. So guys, this is important. This phobia part is the body of the session. Remember the body of the session? All of the work we're doing, either your metaphor or your scripting or a pain management or any process, it always goes in the body of the session. That's very important. Okay, we don't stick it in other places. The framework, that framework, you know that picture that goes down like that we show you, it always stays the same. Okay. So then John happily lived his life, and I can't remember exactly, maybe 8-9 months later, he contacted me and he said it's coming back. I said, what does that mean? He says, that feeling when I'm like on something high, it feels like it's starting to pull me.
It actually does that. That's amazing.
It's,
Yeah.
He says, I can feel it starting again. It's coming back. So I said, okay, come on in. Let's do this. Now, remember the picture I drew for you guys where it shows where the program pushes back? There you could see the program actually pushing back. Right, it was coming back. Yeah. And for some reason, 9 out of 10 times, doing this and just this resolves it permanently. Right? Those exceptions where it pushes back, that's when you need something stronger. And then we did the rest of it, you know, the process, the multi-session approach, and we got to regression therapy, and I regressed him back, and he was a baby. He was just a few months old. Now, let me just ask this. Who here has ever been inside of the Voortrekker monument? It's high, eh? It's very high. It's got those little steps on the inside. You go up like that. It is high. Very high. And he was a baby, and they went there, and they were right at the top, and as a joke, his dad grabbed him and held him over the side.
I hate it when parents down do that.
And that was the
Yeah, Michael Jackson did that. He held his baby out the
At the
balcony window.
window.
People wonder, why would you do that?
Or even when the parents throw their kids in the air like that and catch them. It's like,
I love it. Anyway. So guys, as you can see, that was the cause. That was the reason. And we dealt with that through an analytical reframing process, which you guys will learn over 2 courses.
and then he went to the class and his father.
How old was he, Arno?
I think it was about 6 months or 8 months.
I find it hard to believe that he could relate a story that clearly from that young an age. You know, there has to be mechanisms in place in your mind to carry that through.
Yeah, that's what regression
What
therapy
is it?
does.
I don't know if there's a mechanism, but I'm sure you know about the 2 innate fears are loud noises and fear of falling. So those are not learned fears, but the rest are apparently learned.
Yeah.
All the other fears are learned. Falling is innate.
That's part of us.
Yeah, that's why when
Everybody
you
has
do
that fear as a
hypnosis
kid,
and you have
as a
that
baby.
stair thing, and you say 5 steps, when the stair image comes up, for me the stair is this way. Because since I was small, well, it stopped when I was young, I always used to dream I'm falling downstairs, and it's a huge staircase. So when under hypnosis, that stair thing doesn't work for me because
I know a very good
5.
hypnotherapist. Okay, guys, I want to wrap this up. We're going to have lunch, and I just want you to know. Then that was it. That was, and this was many years ago. I still actually see him from time to time, and he's still happily hiking and doing everything else. It's just completely resolved. So yeah, that's in where you would need regression therapy.
So when he makes that connection, he saw himself being held from a big height, the Voortrekker monument. So does that process in the neurology integrate the healing just by making the recognition, or do you do something?
You have to do a whole analytical process.
Okay.
Yeah, if you just know, spontaneous healing will start, but that can take long. That can take months or years even. But you need to actually change the subconscious perception of that event.
Okay.
Which is
Just
a
like
whole,
a reframe.
It's like a reframe. It's a whole reframe, and it's a big thing. It's the biggest process we teach at the Institute. It's analytical.
In CC4.
CC4 and 5. Nice. Okay, guys, so now you know how to deal with phobia, right? Using incremental desensitization. I've got maybe something else I just want to quickly say about this, and that is there's a difference between a phobia and a panic attack. Okay? With a phobia, the stimulus is known. With a panic attack, it's not known. And yet you need to know there is always a stimulus. Okay? The fact that they don't know what it is doesn't mean there isn't one. There's always a stimulus. Even if it's a thought, often it's a feeling in the body, right? Or sometimes it's something in the periphery of their vision or their awareness that triggers it. Okay. So the best way to deal with that is through regression therapy, and yet you can actually symptomatically deal with it. It's just a little bit more tricky. Okay. So what we do is then we desensitize to the sensations in the body. So anybody that has
panic attack.
Yeah, anybody that has a panic attack has a sequence of things that happen in their body. Maybe their palms start sweating first, then their heart starts racing a little bit, then their mouth and throat goes dry, then it escalates. It's got an order, right? So you elicit that order from them, and the way you do it, you say, go back to the last time before you had a panic attack, and and then you single step it through the experience. You almost like bring on a little bit of a panic attack in your practice in slow motion, and you elicit all the body responses. And then you start from the top after having a resource and anchored that resource, and you associate the new resource anchor with every step of the process. So now